The $1 million agent method is, getting to a million GCI and taking home probably close to 700,000 GCI, working no more than 40 hours a week, no evenings and weekends. From a people standpoint, is not very complicated. It's one local licensed administrator. We've got all the systems around all of that, all the checklists, everything they're going to need to do. They probably will end up hiring a VA, and then probably one or two junior agents that are either going to show your buyers homes, or they're going to, work the buyer side of the business while you focus just on listings. That's the whole journey. You just gotta do the work. What's up, real estate business builders? Today, we're gonna dive into the 4 key moves that I made in my real estate business growth journey to go from newly licensed, having never sold anything prior to getting into real estate, to building a multi-million-dollar real estate sales business. And while there's probably dozens of things that I did, and I had a very good system for planning and delegating and automating and systemizing and all that. These are kind of the 4 things when I just sat for a minute and I thought about what I had built. And this is over 5,000 families served in my real estate journey. And I just got into it like a sort of I say a lowly real estate agent, knowing nothing, not having a lot of guidance and just getting after it. Some of you, when you hear this journey, you'll be like, man, I wish I could get some help going down that path. And even if you don't want to have a $1 million business, right? The principles, the pillars are the same. And we've got 4 pillars that we teach, and we help agents implement exactly what they need in these 4 pillars so that they can build a business that allows for time and money freedom. It's called $1 Million Agent Method. So go to $1millionagentmethod.com. If you want to learn about what it would look like to work with us, you just jump on a strategy session. Let us know where you're at in your business, where you want to go. If it's a fit, we'll talk about it and we'll get after it together. So let's get into the 4 key moves that you'll need to make if you want to really detach the money that you make in your business from the time that you work. That's like the overarching concept of what I've figured out in my journey, and what we've helped over 1,000 agents at this point have come through Real Estate B School, and most recently $1 Million Agent Method, which is a 90-day implementation program where we put all these systems in place, done with you in your business, that endure in your business for years to come. The essence of all of that is figuring out how to leverage systems and automations and delegations potentially, so that you can make an unreasonable amount of money in a reasonable amount of time. Most agents are, when they're sort of traditionally successful, it's not really a life worth living. They're working evenings and weekends. We have folks come into our world that are, doing good business sometimes, but they're just out of sorts, out of balance with, things that matter more to them. When you ask them, what are your priorities? What's important to you? They'll say family and my kids and my spouse and whatever. And then when you look at their calendar, it doesn't even come close, right? Because real estate has a tendency to overtake most areas of your life if you don't have a clear plan in place. So the first move that I made, and this is a little bit 30,000 foot view, is that once I realized, it didn't take me long to realize my dollar per hour worth. So that's number one. The key move was just doing an exercise and calculating what I was working on, and like really what was that worth per hour. And then what did I want to make per hour? I decided early on in my journey, and it took me a few years to get there, but I wanted to take home pre-tax. I wanted to take home $500,000. And I wanted to work only 40 hours a week and basically work 50 weeks a year. So 40 hours a week times 50 weeks in a year, a couple weeks off vacation, that's 2,000 hours. I wanted to make 500,000. So 500,000 divided by 2,000, the calculation is simple. It's $250 an hour. I wanted to work only 2,000 hours and make $250 per hour. Not every hour worked out to be that way, but having that mindset and making that key distinction, and it really was a key move for me, because I ended up writing, I forget if it was like colored cards. I know it was part of my business planning process, but writing $250 and memorializing that move for me was the mental shift that if I wanted to make an unreasonably high amount of income working a reasonable number of hours, I didn't see a lot of agents doing that. So I had to put myself in a position to be able to make well over $250 per hour. And it took me a few years to figure it out, but once I figured it out, I went from 250 to 500 to 1,000 to 2,000 to 3,000. My best year was $3,300 per hour in my real estate business. So that was my key move number one. But the second key move when I look back on the journey was knowing that I wanted to make 250, 500, $1,000 an hour. That was the trajectory that I wanted to get on. I needed help around the 80% of what we do as real estate agents really could be done by a competent, licensed administrator. So it was like 2 a.m. This was early in 2008. So early part of my first full year, technically, because my 2007, I only worked 10 months. Early part of that first full year, 2008, it was like 2 o'clock in the morning. I was building systems like the Nutty Professor, up in the second level. We had like an attic, a finished attic in the house we lived at at the time. And I put a listing for a licensed admin for, I had this grand vision of growing a real estate business. And uh, the next morning at 7 a.m., Tia Wilson, who lived crazy enough, like 5 or 6 houses down from me in a city of over, I think like our metro area is over 2 million people. She lived on the same street as I lived. And so totally divine intervention in terms of, that being a fit. I think we met that day or so after. I hired her part-time. And then within a week, she said, I need a 50% raise and you're hiring me full time. And she was bought in. Right. So doing the right things leading up to that. So obviously I sold 27 homes my first 10 months. So I was generating leads. I was saying the right things, when I would talk to these leads. I was compelling them to take action and physically meet with me. And I was able to sign them up as a loyal client and get them to the closing table. So I was doing some things right, but I was pretty much capped on how much I could do without offloading, building systems and offloading all the stuff that real estate agents do that is not really, really dollar productive. So that was the second key move. The third key move, I would say, and I still do this to this day, is building a calendar with time blocks and honoring those time blocks. If I were to look at, if I were to walk around like on the shoulder, like the angel and the devil, if I were to sit on a productive agent, or even a struggling agent, someone that wants to get after it, and I were just to follow them around for a couple weeks and really see where they're spending their time, if they're following their calendar, if there's any premeditated course of action on the quarterly, monthly, weekly, daily, hourly, if they're time blocking, um, you'd be devastated and, well, not devastated, you'd be surprised that most agents have no plan when it comes to their calendar. And so this is an obvious one. I would bet a lot of money that there isn't like anyone that's listening or watching this that hasn't heard of time blocking. Well over 90% of agents have no calendar that they're following and no time blocks that they're following. We've got a very specific, we call it the ideal week that we structure. We help agents really get into the habit of, and it's more so the benefits on the personal side. You actually work way less hours when you look at your ideal week. It starts with time blocking the non-negotiables around your personal life. So when are your family nights? When are your date nights? When are you off work? When are you not going to work? Those time blocks actually start the process of building this ideal week. And then we put in your morning time and what needs to happen in the morning, whether it's family or whether you're waking up and praying or working out or whatnot. And then we layer in new business development, follow up, and consultations in the calendar. So you know exactly where you're supposed to be every moment of the day. There's no guesswork whatsoever. And I still follow this process to this day. It's allowed me to um, essentially work 10:30 to 4:30, 4 days a week, which, I'm still making amazing income, and I managed to get my hours within a reasonable amount of time, and still have the impact that I want to in the business world, but also in the world at large through some mission and giving, mission trips and giving that we do in my family. I've got a men's group here that I contribute to, and so I'm able to do a lot of different things because I was able to build systems in my business to essentially shrink the amount of time that I work, so I'm not overwhelmed by work, and that takes me off track with really the things that are truly priorities to me, which is my family and my faith, and my spouse and my kids, and making sure that they launch into the world properly. So time blocking, honoring the time blocks. The fourth key move, and this came for me probably the end of 2009, is when I really nailed this process of, we call it a 3-1-90. Well, it's actually a 3-1-90, 13-7, or 7-24. Anyway, 3-year vision, 1-year plan, 90-day world, essentially. So the reason I've been able to, and I've done all the mistakes, so I don't say this out of ego, but the reason I've been able to achieve quite consistently from starting to think about myself as a business owner versus a salesperson, this is probably the most important move that I made. And it's once a year, I'll paint a vision, actually pretty specifically in my business, in my finances, in my marriage, with my kids individually, with my physical body, with my, my men's group and my spiritual journey. I'll paint a picture of where I want those areas specifically to look or be in the future, 3 years from now. Then I look at that and I'm like, okay, well, let's get to work. What has to happen the first year in order for that to be realized, that 3-year vision to be realized? And then we break down that 1-year plan into, okay, what has to happen the first quarter or 90 days, the 90-day world, for me to get on track of, to hit the 1-year plan so I can realize the 3-year vision. And then you break down the 13 weeks into 7 days, and it's that ideal week. And then, time blocking. And so the 3-1-90 fits really well with this concept of the ideal week and time blocking. And it's really hard. Most agents are unable to attach something they're doing today to where they want to be 3 years from now. So it wasn't hard for me. Once I figured this out, it wasn't hard for me to do the work that I probably didn't feel like doing today. It wasn't hard for me to do that work today because I know it fed into this vision of a 3 years from now, what my finances could look like, what my schedule could look like, what I would be able to do with a little bit more financial freedom, a little bit more money freedom, and the impact that I can have as a result of doing the things that I know needed to get done today, that would just feed into this slightly better future that I sort of envisioned for myself. And all of that goes into realizing your dollar worth, right? So if you're making, let's say you brought home 100,000 last year and you worked 50 hours a week, 2,500 hours in a year, you're we call it business freedom index now, but it's 100,000 divided by 2,500, $40 per hour. Part of your 3-year vision, and this is how it all ties together. Part of your 3-year vision should be that you want to 5x your business freedom index. So you want to go from $40 per hour to $200 per hour, working, let's say, only 40 hours a week. So working 2,000 hours and making $200 per hour is 400,000, right? So you want to go from 100,000 working 50 hours a week to 400,000 working 40 hours a week. That's a really important element of a 3-year vision. And then we just break it down into a 1-year plan. Then we break it down to 90 days. And it doesn't have to be complicated. This is not about building a massive business that has all these moving parts and a lot of people to manage. The $1 million agent method is, getting to 1 million GCI and taking home probably close to 700,000 GCI, working no more than 40 hours a week, no evenings and weekends. From a people standpoint, is not very complicated. It's one local licensed administrator. We've got all the systems around all of that, all the checklists, everything they're going to need to do. They probably will end up hiring a VA a virtual assistant, but really a solid team member that happens to be in a lower cost um, country, where super smart person, but you don't have to pay them what you'll need to pay this person. And then probably one or two junior agents that are either going to show your buyers homes, or they're going to, work the buyer side of the business while you focus just on listings. That's the whole journey. And that's a massively, taking home 700,000, working 2,000 hours. What's that? That's $350 per hour. So, and again, you don't even have to go to that. You can use all the same systems in Million Dollar Agent Method to go to 500,000 or a million. And then once you realize that, that's only stage 3. We teach 3 other stages and more advanced stuff that we do, but it's really cool thing that we're building out. So if you want to get closer to us and at least have a conversation about what it could look like, to partner with us and help you build out these systems, these 4 pillars, right? The 4 pillars are leverage, lead generation. We call them lead gen levers, appointment setting process, sales, consultation frameworks, and then leverage client care. That's the 4 pillars that we help you build out. And it is an awesome program. So if you need help with it, just go to milliondollaragentmethod.com. That's milliondollaragentmethod.com. And we'll see you over there. And we'll see you on the next training.